There's no one that we can say that is not deeply affected by all of this, and it's unfortunate that aside from the naira redesign policy being a huge, having a lot of negative effects on the people, is also the fuel scarcity. We also have battling fuel scarcity. That's also a serious problem for a lot of Nigerians at this time. At now, a lot of people are worried that we do not have descent or that the nation does not descend into anarchy of any sort. It's a serious situation, and at this time now, one would expect or one would think that we would be hearing from the federal government as regards anything that's been done or anything being put in place. But then I remembered that just last week the federal government was telling us that it's a necessary sacrifice that we have to make at this time, and so we should all be patient. But how long are we going to be patient for? People are suffering. A lot of people do not have access to their own money. It's a different thing if there's something that's been shared and then you don't have your own, or you didn't get your own, or maybe a certain palliative is being shared around and you didn't get your own. This is totally different. I have my money. I worked hard for my money. I put it in the bank because, well, I was advised to, and then now I need access to my money and I can't have access to it. All right. But then I also want to speak to Nigerians also collectively now, because what happened in Abeokuta yesterday is rather unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. And I just want to say that at this time now, we're just going to be doing ourselves. Let me put it that way. Let me calm down a bit. We're just going to be doing ourselves if we keep attacking the banks or burning the banks or attacking bank officials. It's a very unfortunate situation. We're all frustrated. Yes, I get that. I totally understand that perspective. But then that is not the way out. That is not the way in. That is not the way to go about it. Definitely not the way to go about it. If you want to try to get the attention of the government to do something to our situation, it is not by hurting or harming our own people. It just doesn't make any sense. How is that going to resolve anything? How is that going to help anything? You going out to burn the banks or to hurt bank officials? Because at the end of the day, if it is resolved, it is these same bank officials that will go back to the bank and then pay you. So if you're hurting the bank officials or you're hurting the banks, then how do you intend at the end of the day to have access to your money? There's so much to talk about, and across all the papers, across the front pages of the papers this morning, the major trending story, it is still this naira fuel scarcity. Imagine in Nigeria we're talking about naira scarcity. I don't know what to make of it. But then, welcome to Trends in the Papers. We're going to be looking through trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. And my name still remains Omobola Sandra. I have Fuad Sahid joining in via the phone line. Good morning, Fuad.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. How are you doing this morning?
I don't know how I'm doing. I've not yet understood how I'm doing yet. But have you gotten fuel in recent times?
I have been buying 300 naira per liter. I think the last one was 330. I think it's 330 per liter. I have to move around. I can't wait on queues for hours. So I've had to be buying at 300, 330. The last one I bought was 330, and I think I have to fill up again today. I have to probably get at 330 or 300 again.
Do you have cash on you?
Cash, yeah. I think I have 1,000 naira notes. I mean, just passing around.
Emergency.
almost 2-3 days now.
Emergency fund there.
That was the most I've been. Yeah, just in case I need to do a little
something urgent.
But I think a lot of people are already feeling the heat. I can imagine people who engage in small transactions that are cash dependent. I don't know how they've been living their life. It's crazy out there.
Very just as very, very unfortunate. I was going through a certain note that you sent to me earlier this morning, and I remember something struck in that particular write-up as regards what happened when polymer notes were introduced in 2009 under the CBN leadership of Charles Soludo. Yeah, and I remember that for a very long time both the polymer and paper notes were being served concurrently. There was no deadline as regards or deadline as saying
until
that
the other one was
phased out completely, and there was no problem. So at this point now, I mean, what is with the deadline? And then another thing that's seriously infuriating a lot of people at this time is the injunction by the Federal High Court in Abuja, saying that the government should not and cannot, do anything as regards February 10,
the deadline,
which is on Friday in 2 days. Even with all that is happening in the country right now, I don't know where that is coming from or how that is supposed to, help or to help us. But let's look through the trending stories on the front pages of the papers. This is not the Situation Room, so I'll just leave that. All right, so trends in the papers. We have our papers here with us: Vanguard, The Nation, The Guardian, and The Punch newspaper. And this morning I'll be starting with The Guardian newspaper. Let's look through what are the trending stories. On the front page, of course, the major headline: currency swap. Buhari cancels meeting with governors as TUC issues ultimatum. So the president is meeting with some governors today, and also the CBN governor and the EFCC chairman. That's meeting with Bagudu, Tambuwal, Emefiele, AFCC boss. Also, we have Tinubu bankers call for calm. PDP, hoarding of new Naira notes causing Nigerians pains. Protests rock Ondo, Ogun. Lagos APC suspends campaigns. So what we have in that report is that as Nigerians are waiting for the much needed reprieve of the current cash squeeze ahead of Friday's deadline, there's a meeting between the president Muhammadu Buhari and the Nigerian Governors Forum. Apparently has been postponed, but then a lot of sources that we're having here on this one. But then what we have is that on Monday, APC governors Nasir El-Rufai, Yahaya Bello Matawale dragged the federal government to the Supreme Court. And the governors prayed the court to declare the demonetization policy of the federation, currently executed by CBN under President Buhari's approval, that contravenes the extant provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and also the CBN Act 2007. The CBN Act, that's also what the National Assembly had been pushing forward, Section 20, subsection 2, which states, let me paraphrase, which just simply means that the banks or the bank does not have any right not to receive any cash, or not to receive any naira on any note that is being paid out or that was paid out. Let me put it that way. That's section 20, looking at that particular one, which saying that the act mandates the apex financial institution to redeem the face value of the recalled currency upon demand, even after the expiration of the notice of recall. In simple language, the act is saying that after the expiration date, Naira notes that says such Naira notes will no longer be legal, but months after, even any old notes presented to the banks should still be redeemed by the banks. So this deadline issue and the courts coming in and saying that the government should not intervene as regards extension of that deadline. Do you think at this point now, that's where I'm going to come from, we're not going to dig deep into every other one, but the fact that, is this not an invitation to anarchy or revolution or whatnot?
Well, the incidents of the last 3 days are shown that if we're not careful, we may be descending into some form of anarchy. I think 3 days ago, someone was shot and killed in Ibadan. Just yesterday, we saw videos of a young man. We don't know whether he's dead or not, but
that was badly blood.
Yeah, he was badly injured. I think there were efforts to.
That was in Abeokuta.
And of course, we saw the one from destruction of properties, banks, and the frustration. I think one of the videos, really trended over the night, and that was a young man that was talking about pressure. That there's a lot of pressure. I hope that the people in government, and I think President Muhammadu Buhari particularly, seeing what is happening, and that his aides, if he's not seeing, actually showing it in this thing. And this is how it starts. We keep mentioning it, that look, and I see the level of hypocrisy, amongst politicians, among some ordinary Nigerians who think that there's a political gain from this. That look, if this continues, some parties are thinking that they are going to gain something from it, and I don't know what exactly they want to gain from all of this. And so you see them making what I can call a complete statement of hypocrisy about this particular issue. The reality is that ordinary Nigerians are suffering. The guys that have gone to court, the political parties that have gone to court again, who are we to question the thinking of the court? So I just hope that between the court, the federal government, politicians, public officials in the CBN, we understand that we have a country to protect and we must not burn down this nation. There's a lot of conspiracy theory out there. Actually, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the APC candidate, just came up with his own conspiracy theory about this situation, talking about interim government. The governor of Kano State has also spoken. He's talking about elements in the June 12th era. That the same thing that happened in the June 12th. For people who don't know, we know what happened June 12th, how we truncated that transition period of that time. That those elements are at it again. And who are we not to believe some of these things or begin to look in that direction? And like I said the last time, and I'll repeat it again. If President Muhammadu Buhari wants Nigerians to trust him on his commitment to have a peaceful transition and hand over power this year, then he has to quickly do something to resolve what we have now. Because it's looking as if there's a conspiracy somewhere to ensure that we don't have a peaceful transition in the country. We can't be having fuel scarcity, naira scarcity, pain, this level of pain very close to elections. And we are saying we are not inviting some form of anarchy. Nigerians are even very patient. Look at the Arab Spring, Sandra. What led to the Arab Spring? It was something small. It's not even close to what we are thinking now that led to the Arab Spring. And we know the resultant effect. So again, all of this stuff at the desk of the president. He knows what to do. And again, I repeat, with so much emphasis, I have a reason for emphasizing this. If the president wants us to trust him, if he wants us to believe him, that indeed is committed to having a peaceful transition and that he wants to hand over power, then he needs to, as a matter of urgency, to resolve all of these issues. I know there are some other things that are going to talk about. Eventually, the NNPC has spoken. And Sandra, the statement from the GMD of NNPC is so infuriating, is so annoying, is so arrogant. After 3 months of suffering, but I know we're going to get there.
It's okay. All right. In this particular report now, we also have, in the meantime, the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has issued a 7-day ultimatum to the federal government to resolve the twin problems of naira and petrol scarcities. And in a statement signed by the President Festus Osifo and General Secretary Nuhu Toro, we demand that the federal government within 7 days, beginning from Tuesday, provides a solution to the twin problems of currency unavailability and fuel shortages. TUC maintained that it is not interested in the blame game going on in the government and political circles, but then we'll see how far that 7-day ultimatum will go. Also, just as Father mentioned, presidential candidate of the ruling APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, has appealed to Nigerians to remain calm as government and relevant agencies continue to work out solutions. And speaking in Abuja on Tuesday, Tinubu said he sympathized with the people, especially the downtrodden, who had been made to bear the brunt of the new naira policy and irregular supply of petrol that have combined to inflict avoidable pains on the masses. He also commended NNPCL for the fuel supply relief that is being enjoyed in FCT and urged the company to step up its act to bring relief around the country. He has also urged the CBN not to be dogmatic in the deadline that they have fixed for the transition from old notes to new one, especially as the unintended consequence of the policy has been massive pain on the people. Also, the Atiku Okowa presidential campaign has said the hoarding of new naira notes is causing Nigerians unimaginable pain, wrecking their means of livelihood. The campaign said it stands with Nigerians in calling for an end to the criminal activities of intercepting and hoarding the new notes for vote-buying plots. Despite excruciating hardship, the sinister action is causing millions across the country. All right. I'm not even going to go into the fact that a lot of our politicians are just, are beginning to politicize.
They're just faffing around and thinking that they can mess up with us with their political statement. this issue of vote buying. I just wonder, why are people saying some people want to buy votes? Again, we have to be careful to believe these politicians who think they can just deceive us with some of these statements. Well, as I speak with you, they are all planning to buy votes, and they know what to do to buy votes, so they should not just bother out.
I'm wondering why there's one is saying that, oh, I'm buying, you are buying, you're not buying, you're buying, I'm not buying.
Well, we know they all buy votes.
Moving on now, we also have on the front page of The Guardian, INEC chair meets Emefiele, demands concessions for election operations. So INEC chairman Mahmood Yakubu has met with the governor of the CBN, and there are riders to that story. I have here, as CBN governor, I won't be used to sabotage elections, Emefiele assures INEC. Okay. I
want you to read that story completely. What the INEC chairman said about the need for cash.
I will read it.
All right.
Anti-June 12 elements regrouping to scuttle elections through court injunctions, Ganduje alleges. Atta-led compatriots charges INEC to conduct elections at all costs. Mbeki leads Commonwealth election observers to Nigeria. Now, the first rider, as regards INEC and the CBN. In a courtesy visit to the CBN, the chairman of INEC, that's Professor Mahmood Yakubu, expressed concern about the policy and how it might affect the 2023 general elections if not managed. He said some of the service providers, especially transporters, are required to be paid in cash. And besides, experience has shown that emergency situations do arise on election day, which could demand the use of cash by the commission. He therefore requested concessions regarding the Naira redesign policy with specific reference to the limitations placed on cash withdrawals. Now, I'm going to quote what he said now. The Nigerian election is a huge and complex one. It requires the engagement of critical services, and in line with the provisions of the exchange laws and regulation, service providers are generally paid by means of electronic transfer to their accounts. However, there are crucial areas such as transportation, human support services that have to be immediately enumerated, either partially or in full, before services are rendered. In addition, emergency equations or situations may arise that require immediate cash payments. Over the years, we have worked with the CBN, commercial banks to pay for such services seamlessly during general elections, all cycle and by-elections. The Commission has migrated all its accounts at national and state levels to CBN, and this arrangement has worked without hindrances to our activities. However, in view of the recent policy that's involving all of this, we are hoping that they consider addressing some of the areas of concern with just 16 days to the election as it is now. And now, responding to that one, the CBN governor assured INEC as well as Nigerians that CBN won't do anything inimical to the successful conduct of the polls, assuring that CBN will provide INEC the needed Naira notes as required. So, can we put that to rest? Can we go to bed with that assurance that the elections
Sandra,
is covered?
Wait now, we are prioritizing the conduct of elections. So Nigerians should die before they now go and vote.
So who votes?
So who will now vote eventually? Because he's going to make the necessary logistics and cash available to INEC to conduct election. Conduct election on who precisely? On disgruntled Nigerians, on hungry Nigerians, on angry Nigerians, or they should die before the elections come. He's not concerned about the sufferings and the destructions in the living of Nigerians at this time. So the election is the priority. And whatever INEC is saying goes to show again that there are limitations to how we can implement this cashless policy. We don't have the infrastructure. Look, 17% of Nigeria is still covered by internet. Over 80% of the parts of the country are not even covered with any form of internet facility. So do we have the technology? Look at what is happening to Zenith Bank now. That was the same bank that Emefiele worked in. We should talk to them what is happening to a whole Zenith Bank. The entire structure has almost collapsed as we speak. So are we saying that the election should be the priority and that Nigeria should die before we conduct the elections? Is that what we are saying? Because again, it is easy for us to sit here in your bank centers and think all is well. I know the reports you are getting from rural areas in the country, how people are suffering, how their disruption. Look, there are people who don't do more than 2,000 naira transaction in a day. That other Nigerians, whatever they sell, whatever they do as daily transaction in their business is not more than 2,000 naira. Are we going to have to force those people to go and open accounts now? How? Where would that happen? They don't even have smartphones. They can't even afford it. And those are the Nigerians I'm speaking for, Sandra, which form majority as we speak now. Where is infrastructure? The banks are struggling as we speak. The IT guys cannot even cope. We don't have technology and infrastructure to force these things down Nigerians, the truth of Nigerians at this time. We are just bringing untold hardship on them. He wants to provide for INEC. What of ordinary Nigerians? He doesn't care. Is that what we are saying?
Well, just as I totally understand, the emotions that are running through Fuad's mind right now. But then a lot of people would say that this election is also important, but then the people are also important. They need access to their own money. It's not like you're sharing money for people. It's their own. Let them have access to it. But then also in that particular story, we also have here that the Kano State Governor, Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, has alleged that elements who worked for the annulment of June 12, 1993 presidential election are regrouping and dangerously masquerading in the prevailing crisis generated by the CBN cash policy as it is now. Looking at that particular one, also, it's another cause for concern. Still on this elections matter, that there may be some. We keep hearing elements and
Sandra, for people who will remember how the June 12th election was nullified, was annulled. Sorry, the freest and fairest election we have ever held in the country. It started like this. On the eve of election, some people ran to court to go and stop the election. And it was based on that court order that the former head of state, President Babangida, annulled the election. So that's how it starts. You begin to see all manner of people going to court to seek all manner of injunctions. Don't be surprised, Sandra, that few days to this election that we are talking about, people will approach the court for it to be stopped. Just note what I've told you now. That few days to this election that we want to, some fifth colony elements that don't want us to have a peaceful transition will also approach. They started to go to the court now to get all manner of funny injunctions. You know what I told you? That watch out for different court pronouncements how to get close to the election. And I agree, there are elements that are hit again. They want anarchy. They don't want us to hold this election, and we have to begin to watch out for them and their actions. So I agree with the governor of Kano State that indeed there are elements who want to destroy this country, who don't want us to have a transition. And we should begin to pick them out and call them out. They will approach the court. That's how June 12 started. Just on the eve of election, I've forgotten the name of that person. But thank God to the head of the electoral commission then, who went ahead and announced the result of the election. And it was based on that court injunction that the election was annulled, that led to the chaos and anarchy of that period. So they are at it again. Now we have to be careful what we encourage on the name of politics, on the basis of politics. So when I see politicians making all manner of political statements, thinking they can gain from this, I just laugh.
Yeah. More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. I'm moving very quickly now. I also have on the front page of the Guardian, Anaku youths invade Omo community, kill 8, scores missing. We're still battling insecurity in major parts of the country. Yeah. Yes. A
lecturer has been killed in Anambra State now. Also reported in the papers.
Very, very unfortunate. And it's just so many issues bedeviling in this country at this time.
Very close to the election.
Very close. Just 16 days to the election. So we also have on the front page of the Guardian, Emefiele can't fund activities of IPOB, says group. So the report is saying that the indigenous people of Biafra, that's IPOB, has said the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, does not have the resources to fund their activities. IPOB accused the DSS of plotting to humiliate Emefiele out of office by making such claims. IPOB spokesman Emma Powerful made the remark while denying DSS claims of Emefiele funding the separatist group. So, in a statement signed by Powerful stating that Emefiele does not have the money to fund IPOB, considering that the group is bigger than him. It's okay.
And I will never make a comment on a group known for propaganda and disinformation. And I don't think it will make any sense for me to talk about whatever is more powerful. The leader of a group has been declared a terrorist organization. So I really won't bother with it. It's known to use a lot of propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation. So again, if the DSS has any case against Emefiele, they know what to do.
Okay. As it is now, for the records, IPOB is saying that they don't know Emefiele, they just know that he's the man in charge of CBN. Whether or not he has the funds to fund them, hopefully DSS will do their investigations and we'll get to know more from that particular report. More details on page 23 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have Wike backtracks, approves stadium for Atiku rally. All right, and that is speaking of the politics that's happening in Rivers State, or in PDP. Let me put it that way, in PDP in Rivers State. And what we have is that the governor of Rivers State, contrary to his earlier position, has approved the Adoke Aniesimaka Adoke Amesimaka. I've gotten for the PDP presidential rally that's holding on Saturday, February 11 in Port Harcourt. With all of this that's happening, I find it intriguing that candidates are still going about with their campaigns. It's interesting. But more details of that on page 27. We also have here Ghanaian star rescued from rubbles after earthquake. Yeah. So they found him, the Christian,
alive.
Yeah, alive, although in critical condition, but he's been found. That's good news, but very unfortunate what is happening in Turkey at this time.
Sandra,
7,200. Yes, that's what we're currently working with. All right. Okay. So we also have. let's move on now to let's see what's trending from the Punch newspaper.
You run away from a particular line. I don't catch. It's okay.
Let's move on to the Punch newspaper now. Thank you. It's okay. All right, the Punch newspaper, the major headline there: Naira crisis may disrupt polls.
Okay. We are saying this. I think we don't know what we are saying.
Naira crisis may disrupt polls. INEC warns Emefiele and NSA. So we have riders to that. Some of our service providers have no bank accounts. Commission laments. Buhari governors meeting shelved. Minister says president's hands are tied.
To what?
Who tied it?
Who started the policy initially?
Who tied it?
So, okay, maybe the courts. They will tell you the courts, the pronouncement from the court has tied the hand of the president. And then, these things are going to happen. It's a pattern that we're used to, but it's okay. We keep monitoring. Banks
shut branches over customers' attack. CBN calls.
Yes, if I'm a bank, I won't go to work because nobody will come and kill me there.
I'm telling you.
Are you not seeing the video?
Do you see the people that were jumping fence?
So you want to put me at arm's way? I'm sorry, if I'm a banker, I won't go to work now. I would not.
Imagine going to work for something that you don't know, you don't have hand, you don't have leg. You don't know hand, you don't know leg.
And again, Nigerians are frustrated, just vent their anger on you.
And they just vent their anger on you.
Yes, now. I think the first bank somewhere in Abeokuta was
burnt. Yes, was burnt down. Those ones, they can't even go to work. So
I'm sorry, if I'm a banker, I'll just stay at home. I won't go to work.
Thank God you're not.
So let CBN, let them do it alone. Let them be the ones dishing out the cash to everybody by themselves.
Okay.
Before I call.
It's all right. Well, we've already discussed this from The Guardian, but then you can get more details on pages 2 and 25 of the Punch newspaper as regards INEC and Emefiele. INEC coming forward to say they need cash. Emefiele saying, don't worry, if you need cash, we'll get it available for you. All right. More details on pages 2 and 25. Moving on now, still on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Ogun, Ondo, Edo protesters storm banks, demand cash. And there are pictures here, destruction of bank properties and a lot of people on the road burning tires and whatnot. Edo has been, on their own case since last week.
Sandra, the disinformation other Nigerians have now, and I think it's deliberate, is to somehow deceive them that the banks have enough notes that they are just hoarding it. That's a disinformation. I'm not saying misinformation.
We talked about this some days ago, Fuad, about the security
risks to the banks.
The security risk to the banks of revealing pictures of their vault rooms. It was just very, very irresponsible. I don't know who released those pictures, but it must have made some people feel that truly, banks have enough, and they are not giving us. So let's disband.
And here we have the CBN not telling us how much they have actually printed and distributed. The figures you are having is that, look, they were able to mop up 2.something trillion of the old currency, and what they printed is around maybe 600 billion or so. How is that supposed to be enough? Whether we like it or not, the economy of the country is still heavily cash dependent because we don't have an infrastructure for the cashless policy they are trying to force down the throat of Nigeria. That's not the reality. Are they not living in Nigeria? Don't they travel to their villages? Don't they go to the rural areas? Is it not in this country that, look, there are local governments that don't even have any form of banks, no internet, no light, no nothing? I serve in the north. I know what I'm saying.
Well, that more details of the protests on page 16 of the Punch newspaper. Moving on now, I also have this rather interesting story here. Federal government plans new policy to track public spending. Yes, and that is on page 25. And what it simply says is that as the federal government struggles to generate revenue and manage its rising expenditure, they plan to launch a new policy for public finance management. And the policy, referred to as the bottom-up cash planning policy, will be launched on Friday for effective tracking of government policy. This program, which takes off the same day the old Naira note will cease to be legal tender, has been in the works since 2009, when the federal government initiated a feasibility study to determine the best strategies to address its cash management challenges. More details on page 25. So implementation of bottom-up cash planning will bring more certainty to budget execution and engender fiscal discipline. You can get the details on page 25 of the Punch newspaper. So I guess the federal government is multitasking. Moving on now, we also have here that Ekiti is owing pensioners 40 billion naira gratuities. 40 billion. One state. That's interesting. That's
pensioners.
Yeah. That's on
people that have served. They have served.
Finish working.
And they are supposed to, the little they are supposed to get every month now.
And live on. So the Ekiti State Governor, Biodun Oyebanji, on Tuesday reassured pensioners in the state that he's prioritizing payment of their pension and gratuities to ensure better lives for the senior citizens. And he said that beneficiaries of the payment would include retirees that are alive and the next of kin of those that are deceased. And he said this during the handover of checks for the payment of a total of 130 million naira gratuities to 69 retired local government workers and teachers. So they're on it. More details on page 12 of the Punch. Above the masthead of the Punch newspapers, fuel price to skyrocket as marketers threaten shutdown. On February 6th, that was on Monday, there was a circular that went out from the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria that they will be suspending dispensing petrol at all their filling stations nationwide. But then yesterday, there's a suspension, of that suspension. Yes. But then, is this something that we might be, looking forward to, or is it something that might still happen?
Well, we two circulars almost back to back, Sandra. First, the one, I think by the Secretary of Hitman, telling their members to suspend dispensing of fuel across their filling station. only for us to get another circular yesterday, I think from the chairman of IPMAN, saying that, look, they suspended it because they are now having meetings with NNPC, who have promised that they can now get fuel directly from their depot. You know, we talked about the destruction in supply. And IPMAN have been saying that the reason why their members have to be selling at 300 and above is because they are now getting it from secondary market. They can't get directly from NNPC. So what they said is that somehow the NNPC have now agreed for them to have direct supply, direct access to supply. You know, because the idea initially was that they were going to be forcing them to sell at the official price. And they said they can't do that. These things are not getting directly from the NNPC. So the destruction in itself, nobody's addressing it. Only for them to begin to, we are going to go and shut down their stations and all that. Look, we can only sell what we have bought at the rate that we have bought, which we have bought. So it's a good news that it is suspended, because I was thinking that I was going to cause more pain if these independent guys decide not to sell, because I've been buying from them, because I need to move around, I need to do my job. I've been buying from most of the independent marketers at 300, 350, which is unfortunate though.
Well, what we have is that the queues for petrol grew worse on Tuesday, following an earlier directive to shut down filling stations. Although that directive has been withdrawn, just as I mentioned, but it was observed that that particular order triggered fuel queues in many parts of Abuja and neighboring states, as hundreds of motorists besieged these few outlets that dispensed. But then there's still massive queues by motorists at different parts of the country, and all marketers have confirmed that the queues were due to the confusion that was caused by the earlier directives. But then, as it is now, the IPMAN chairman has directed. Moving on from that particular one. The report that we have now is that they are back to selling, but then they don't know what exactly is going to be the outcome. There's a report that says that Major Oil Marketers Association, as MOMAN, Depot and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, Independent Petroleum Marketers, security agencies, the downstream regulator, they all agree that petrol should be sold at 195. But oil marketers said the agreement was reached at a meeting in Abuja last week, as participants resolved that beginning from Monday, February 6th, the pump price will be 195. I think that was what brought about, the suspension, due to the fact that these people are buying at way higher than 195. So how do you expect us to now sell at 195? So they had told their correspondents to, avoid having the outlet sanctioned. That's why they decided not to sell. But what we don't know what exactly the movement going forward will be, as it is now, but IPMAN is currently interfacing with NNPC and NMPDRA on these issues, and there's hope that there will be good resolution among all the parties. More details on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. Banks ordered to freeze Pakistani terror financiers' accounts. That is also on page 28. Let's quickly see what exactly that report is saying. So what we have is that the Central Bank of Nigeria has directed banks to freeze accounts related to a Pakistani, that's Abdul Rahman Maki, who has been linked to a terror group, Al-Qaeda, by the United Nations Security Council. And the UN Security Council approved the addition of Maki to their list of individuals and entities subjected to asset freeze and all of that. So the CBN has ordered banks to freeze his accounts as such here also in Nigeria. That's on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. All right, and finally on the front page of the Punch, we also have here how powerful forces tried to stop Tinubu candidacy. And that's coming from the APC vice chairman. And the story is on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. So very quickly, I'll just quickly run through. The national vice chairman of APC, Malam Salihu Lukman, said some forces outside the APC made attempts to use former President Goodluck Jonathan and Governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, to prevent Bola Tinubu from being chosen as the APC presidential candidate. According to Lukman, it took the combined efforts of the president, the National Working Committee, and the resilience of the APC governors to abort the move. Okay. Well, he's now the he's now the presidential candidate.
I think we should move on with that now. We all knew what happened at that time, the intrigue. And I think it's just part of politics. That people were trying to stop him. It was a context and people were going to scheme. It's a normal thing. He also played the game too. So it was supposed to be a game, and with every game there are going to be intrigue, scheming and all manner of things. So what are we supposed to do with this story now? He has the ticket now, so
exactly.
So I think we should just move on.
I have.
Not waste time on.
All right, you're still listening to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. And don't forget that we're live on Facebook and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. Do follow us on all our social media channels. Now we're moving on now to the Nation newspaper. Very quickly, just the major ones that we have not touched. But then the major headline on the front page of the Nation: Naira scarcity sparks protests. Benin CBN office, bank branches shut. Protesters block Benin Ore Road. Buhari meets Tambuwal, Bagudu, Emefiele. Now that's on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. I also have, I'm trying to see a story that we've not touched on the front page of the Nation, but then the front page touches the major stories that we've touched from all the other papers. What we have here is court frees Omokore, 2 firms in $1.6 billion oil fraud case. And that is on page 29. NNPCL CEO: petrol scarcity will ease next week. Yay!
What did you guys do? After 3 months of suffering,
I'm sorry, please forgive me,
of criminal silence. And if you read the paper, Sandra, you know I'm getting very annoyed this morning.
I'm going
if you read that story.
I'm going to get there.
The arrogance at which he was defending the competence of the NNPC.
Well, the NNPCL has apologized to Nigerians for the pains the nationwide petrol scarcity has caused them in the past 3 months. The GMD of NNPCL, Mele Kyari, who spoke in a televised program, assured the public that the glitch, in quote, will be resolved to everyone's relief. Now I'm quoting him: "I apologize for the situation on behalf of all of us, the stakeholders in the oil and gas industry. Definitely not surely exclusive. Having said this, it is unfortunate. It's a glitch. We are responsible to resolving this glitch. We will resolve it." Now, asked to specify when Nigerians will begin to see a turnaround, Kyari expressed a strong belief that it will be felt within the next 1 week. But there's a caveat. I'm not saying that you're going to have 0 queues within the next 1 week. No.
Sandra, I've seen a lot of more.
I can't.
I understand the competence.
I can't guarantee that because a number of things are out of our control. He explained that the market forces will determine how quickly the situation is resolved. But in his own view, the country is going to see substantial and relative ease in the next 1 week compared to the situation at present. That is what the NNPCL boss has said. So are we going to see a relief or not? That the question is not answered. Is there going to be? Yes, I'm with you.
Did he define the glitch? That glitch. What exactly is that glitch that I was talking about?
It didn't say it. It just said it's a glitch.
I will not begin. I have a reason why I'm not going to make further comments.
Okay.
I think Nigerians are intelligent enough and they can always make their own
deductions.
Deduction from this story. Yeah. Let's just move on.
Okay, but he's saying that, well, we have no benefit in doing this. We are families, we are members.
Sandra, I say I know incompetence when I see it. But I've never seen people so arrogant.
We don't want Nigerians to
incompetence.
Suffer. And of course, as a matter of condition, we don't think anyone should go through this thing. Then why are we going through it? Why?
3 months. 3 months.
For 3 months. And then you come out after 3 months.
Counting. And that look, after 1 week, I'm going to say relief, but I'm not assuring you that the queues will disappear.
Well,
we love you.
We are family.
It's okay.
Well, According to him, the Buhari administration is addressing the fuel problem holistically, and this is the first time in so many years that a government is addressing the problems associated with fuel supply and distribution collectively. That is according to Timi Presilva now. That's not Mene Kyari speaking. That is the Junior Minister of Petroleum. That's Minister of State for Petroleum. So, Timi Presilva said the government, through the NNPCL, acquired a 20% stake in Dangote Refinery, embarked on the licensing of modular refineries, concluded the marginal fields bids rounds, as well as improved security of the major crude oil pipelines in the Niger Delta in the last few months. This report is a very interesting one. I wish we had seen it earlier in the program.
I was hoping you were going to start with it, but it's fine. But honestly, I really don't want to make too much comments on it. I have a reason to just.
I really, really wish we had started with this particular story, so we would have, gone deeper into it. But there's more details on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. There's a lot that's been said there from the federal government and the NNPCL. They finally speak after 3 months, and what we are hearing is, we are family. Well, moving on now to Vanguard newspaper. Naira fuel scarcity. Elections will hold as planned, says NSA. The riders to that: we won't be used to derail general elections, CBN assures INEC. Promises to make cash available to electoral umpire. CBN to make profound pronouncement on Friday. That's this Friday. That's on February 10. When the
how profound, eh? Wait till Friday.
The deadline dates. That's on page 25 of Vanguard newspaper. We also have here, shake up in police as IGP redeploys senior officers. That's another interesting story. That is on page 4 of Vanguard newspaper.
We're close to elections. That normally happens.
Exactly. To put that out. So there was a major shake-up in the Nigeria Police Force yesterday following the posting and redeployment of senior police officers between the ranks of commissioners of police and deputy inspectors general of police, DIGs, to various police commands, departments and formations across the country. So consequently, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Dan Malam Mohammed, has been redeployed to the Department of Finance and Administration. Other recently promoted ranks were also redeployed. All of the redeployment is on the page 4 of Vanguard newspaper. You can get the details there. All right, we also have on the front page here, banks, Naira redesign. Banks, telcos differ on why online banking transactions fail. It's okay. That's on page 14 of Vanguard. We also have on front page of Vanguard, Naira scarcity. Tinubu, Atiku are daggers drawn. That's on page 5. I don't know why they're holding daggers though, but it's okay. Elections mirage without security, Sultan warns. That's a very important one. We seem to be overlooking that. Everybody's focusing on Naira for scarcity, but insecurity is
somebody coming from the Sultan. Yeah, we should know also.
Exactly. Well, that's all the trending stories that we have across the papers this morning. Thank you for staying with us. However, don't change the dial. We'll be back by 8:40 as we focus on one or two focal points on Mainland Focus, and then we'll open up the phone line for you to join in on the conversation. This is 98.3 Mainland FM, and we're just through with trends in the papers, and we will be right back.